Welcome to the Braveyard. Today's guest is an incredibly inspiring celebrity fashion designer from LA. He's known for his appearances on shows like Project Runway and The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. He has dressed some of the biggest names in Hollywood, including Doja Cat, Iggy Azalea, Tyra Banks, and many more. With features in Vogue, New York Times, and Elle, please help me welcome somebody I am proud to call my friend, Matt Sarafa. Hi, Matt.
Hi, my love.
How are you? You
Oh
look
my gosh,
stunning. Of course you look stunning.
thank you, baby. I'm doing better now that I'm talking to you.
What's funny is we were going to record on a different day and we moved it. But that day I felt such pressure for some reason interviewing you. I was like, hey, I'm going to like pick a really nice outfit. I'm
Oh
going
my
to do it
god.
up. And then today I was like, you know what? This is me.
If I put the camera down, I'm in sweatpants right now. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Oh, I love it. That's the nice thing about recording is you're just like, okay, like
Right,
the other
top
day I had like a
up.
blouse and like a nice push-up
Literally,
bra.
you could
And
be
then
naked on the bottom if you want.
literally I
Like,
was
that's the
sitting
best
in like
part.
booty shorts. I was just like,
Right?
okay. All right. So, I mean, you're basically an icon and a legend
Stop
already at a
it.
really young age. And you're such an inspiration to queer people, but I think especially queer youth because of just how confident you are. Have you always just been this confident and authentically you? Or was there
To
something that you struggled with to get here?
to be honest with you, no. I would as much as I would love to say that I've always been this way, I haven't been, and it's been a very long, tumultuous journey to get to where I'm at right now. I feel like I'm not special in terms of, growing up, having, a tough time in school and socially. And it wasn't really until honestly around high school when I started coming into my own. I came out, I was more comfortable and confident with who I was as a person. And then that's when stuff really started popping off for me. Cause I'm a huge believer in, the confidence that you have and that you exude outwards. That has such like a big impact on your life and the opportunities that come your way.
Mhm.
Because as soon as I came out and as soon as I started living unapologetically, that's when all of this stuff started happening and coming into fruition for me. So I don't feel like that's by coincidence.
Totally. And when you look at it, like, same thing for me. When previously to my transition, there was just like a lot of tumultuous stuff in my life, and I wasn't really being able to find success or find where I felt like I was placed or meant to be. And once I kind of accepted who I was and was showing up in the world authentically, that's when everything kind of changed for me. And that's when I started my companies. That's when I was having recognition. That's when I was having conversations with people because there's something about when you're not being who you are on the inside and you're talking to people, you're not going to get that core connection and like really get down to feeling like you're both understanding each other. And that was something
Mhm.
I never realized until I was just authentically being me and being vulnerable and allowing myself to be the person that I've always been on the inside. And then people really started to show up. They were sharing more about themselves. I was
Mhm.
developing deeper connections. And it's just, you have to be authentically you, even if it's weird, even if it's out there and crazy or loud and ambitious, or in our case, queer. Like,
Mhm.
unless you're being who you are on the inside, people are never going to connect to you properly.
100%. And I feel like especially where we are now in the world, I feel like people have such good BS detectors. And I feel like no matter how good you feel like you're trying to hide it or trying to keep it to yourself, people can always tell when you're not being authentic. And that makes people not want to be authentic with you.
Totally. And I mean, obviously, you've grown up with an incredibly famous family. Do you feel like there's been an added pressure to you because so much of their success, I think people can criticize so many people that are in media or in reality or whatever they want all the time. But I think your family has shown up authentically and very much been themselves and found success from that. So do you feel like there's an added pressure for you to find success in that realm, or are you happy to pave out a new path for you?
Honestly, I don't feel much pressure from that aspect. You know, nobody in my family is in the fashion world or in the fashion space. So I feel like in a way, I am kind of paving my own way and I'm kind of doing everything by myself and figuring it out as I go along because, you know, everybody has their own little niches and what they're good at and what they do. But fashion, in terms of the people in my life, was kind of an untouched category.
Mm.
So I didn't have much help
Which
starting
is
out
funny, you
and
think about it, that none of them had touched fashion.
right? Well, as soon as I was born, now all of a sudden everybody's fashion is elevated a little bit.
I mean, was your family surprised when you came out at all?
Not at all. Not even just my family, but nobody in my life was. You know, like everyone always said, like the closet, it was a glass closet. Like I was the last to know that I was gay. I feel like because it's like I
And not
was
to make fun of you, but you really do look like you came out in a tutu, just, like, ready with your
I
fan,
have
like, "I'm
pictures of
here."
it. At 2 years old, my mom said she had this pair of, like, gold high heels that I would love to stomp around in. Like, my godmother, Kyle, she said she always told my mom, like, "Oh, you're feeding Matt, like, the gay rice and beans." Like, that boy is gay, gay, gay. And I was just the last to know, and, you know, it is what it is.
Oh my god. I love your relationship with your godmom, though. The fact that she said that is actually so funny. And I
She's the
love that
best.
your family is so empowering for queer people. Like, I think that there's just something really beautiful about how everyone in your family and around you are advocates for the queer community in one way or another.
100%. I feel so blessed and lucky to have not only a family, but an entire support system and a community around me where there was no pushback when I came out. Everybody was quite the opposite. Everyone was so happy and so encouraging and proud of me for doing it. And I honestly could not have asked for a better support system around me, and I would be nothing and certainly nowhere near where I am today without all those people in my life, and especially my mom. My mom is my very best friend in the whole world. I talk to her every single day, and she could not be more supportive of me as a person and every single, you know, goal or aspiration that I've ever had throughout my entire life.
Aw. What's your advice to those that have come out whose families are not so supportive?
The thing about family is that you can choose your own family. I feel like especially within the queer community, it's like you can build your own family. It doesn't have to be a biological connection. I'm actually me and my 2 younger brothers, we're all adopted. So my parents are not my biological parents,
I didn't
but
know that you were adopted.
yeah, a little Easter egg there. Yes. So me and both of
Wow.
my brothers, there's not one gene in common in our entire family. My dad had cancer when he was very, very little. So he knew he wasn't going to be able to have biological kids. So my parents went the adoption route. So, you know, there's not a gene in common. We're not, you know, blood related in any way, but we still love each other stronger than most families that I see. So I feel
Totally.
like that right there is proof that you can really build your own family. And just because you're not blood related doesn't mean that you cannot be there for each other and have that familial kind of love.
100%. And I love that. I think that's so beautiful. And what a gorgeous testament to people being parents and loving their children. And I think that so many people are stuck with biological parents that are non-supportive.
Mhm.
And I think it's really beautiful to hear of parents that are making their family in their own way. And it's the exact it's the same. It's family is family, whether it's chosen family, whether it's
Mhm.
the friends that you're surrounding yourself with that love you, as long as you're surrounded in love and respect, and those people are happy to cheer you on through your success, that's what's important.
Absolutely. And people that want the best for you and genuinely, genuinely want you to succeed and thrive. I think that's so important.
Uh, where did I have more questions about your adoption?
Let's do it.
How old were you when you were adopted?
So me and both of my brothers, we were adopted at birth. So my parents now they were in the delivery room as I was a C-section. So as I was coming out,
Right.
and story with my 2 younger brothers. And I'm sure the follow-up question for that was, where am I from? This is like the biggest shocker to everybody. I'm from Nebraska. That's
Oh,
where I am from.
Nebraska.
Of all places, which is so crazy. So I was there for like only 3 days. So when people ask, they're like, "Oh, were you born and raised in LA?" It depends on, if I really wanna have a conversation or open up to them. I'll either say yes or technically no, but I've been here pretty much my whole life.
Right, I mean, you were raised in LA,
I
obviously,
was
but
raised, yeah, it might as well have been born here because 'cause I'm definitely nothing about this says Nebraska.
oh my god. So, have you ever had any contact with your birth parents or wanted to have any contact with birth parents?
So that's a great question. It was what they call a closed adoption. So until my brothers and I were 18, legally we were not allowed to have any contact with our birth parents, and they were not allowed to contact us. And
Mhm.
growing up, I really, really thought that, the day and the moment I turned 18, I wanted to go and seek that out and meet them. But as I got older and obviously as I got closer with my parents, it just kind of felt like something that I didn't feel like I needed to do, and I'm nobody, I'll never say never, but at the point in my life that I'm at right now, my parents and my family have given me more love and more support than I could have ever dreamt of or ever asked for, and I feel like that need to go and find out where I'm from is not such a necessity to me anymore.
Mhm.
So, maybe down the line that could change, but especially like I said, my mom, I couldn't ask for a better mom in the entire world. And I'm so grateful that, being adopted, I could have ended up anywhere in the world. And the fact that I ended up here with my family, it's like the biggest blessing.
Mhm. Do you think that have your parents talked to you and said that they would be okay with you looking or reaching out, or do you think that would, almost be, slightly hurtful to them in any way? Is that a concern for you?
My parents are so open-minded, and even growing up, they've always allowed us to kind of decide our own paths in life and, be there for us if we fall down. It would not impact them whatsoever. They've always left that decision up to us to decide what we wanted to do. So growing up, when me and my brothers talked about wanting to go meet our birth parents, they were fully supportive of it. And, when we decided that we didn't really want to, they were supportive of that too. So it was never, you hear stories about people being adopted and it's like you find out at like 15 years old, it's like, surprise, you were adopted. It was never anything like that. Like from as long as I can remember adoption being talked about so openly and, honestly. And that's why I feel so comfortable talking about it because it's really
Mhm.
not that big of a deal to me,
Oh,
at
and I
least.
love that too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
adoption is beautiful. Like, if me and my partner were to ever look at having kids, that's not something that we know whether or not we ever want to
Uh-huh.
look at or pursue, but I mean, adoption is probably what we would be looking at too. There's so many kids in the world that deserve love and need love, and I think that unfortunately, a lot of times people have children before they're ready or they're not in the circumstances to have them, and then
Exactly.
kids get thrown into the system, and it's something that
Mhm.
I went through briefly too with being in the system and seeing it firsthand and seeing my
Oh,
friends in the system, and it's such a tumultuous place for youth to be, and if more people were looking at adoption, then more children would stay out of the system, they would go to loving families, and I think adoption's beautiful. I think it's just one of the most beautiful things you can do if you wanna be a parent is to adopt, and that's what I have to say on that.
I love that. Amen to that.
Yes. Let's talk fashion.
Yes.
I want one of your faux fur jackets.
Period. Let's make that
I
happen,
am
baby.
saving up, and that is going to be my Christmas present to myself because
Oh
I
my god,
am
stop it.
obsessed.
Oh my god.
When did fashion become such a major part of you and who you are in your core identity?
So ever since I can remember, I've always been very creative. I loved art growing up, drawing, painting, and anything that kind of stimulated that part of my mind, I was all in about. And I remember I was 7 years old and I was sitting on the couch. My mom was recovering from surgery, and we were just flipping through the TV channels, and we came across a marathon of the TV show Project Runway. And we sat down and spent pretty much the entire day just watching it from start to finish, and that is really where my love of fashion really blossomed. It was just I was so entranced by the fact of seeing these designers take an idea from their head, translate it down onto paper, and then execute it and bring it to life through, like, textiles and, just design, and then having, like, an art piece be able to come to life and see it on somebody's body. That whole process was really, really exciting to me. So, I started sketching, I learned how to sew from my grandma. My grandma's always been, like, a little hand sewer,
Oh,
then I ended up taking exceeding my grandma's skills and then started taking some sewing classes, and
eat
then
out
basic
grandma.
yes, shout out to Grandma Dodo, the
Ah.
best. And then, the rest is kind of history. I found myself a few years later on the debut season of Project Runway Junior, which was such a full circle moment.
I was
Uh
gonna say that must have been, the beginning of where you found your passion, and then all of a sudden being cast into the show where it all started for you must have been a really incredible feeling of validation.
Exactly, and it was just like it almost didn't feel real to me because it's like I still can transport myself back to 7 years old, falling in love with fashion on that very show, and the fact that I got to become part of the Project Runway family, especially at such a young age, was so mind-blowing to me, and I have to thank that show for giving me the platform to start every single thing that I'm still doing right now.
And what's on the docket for you now? Because I mean, obviously, like, you've dressed such incredible major celebrities. You have been just like a complete icon for queer youth looking to go into the fashion industry. What's going on for you now? What's kind of your next big step?
Oh, I feel like everything is always going on. Uh, Fashion-wise, we are working on a new collection right now, which I'm really excited about. We are expanding beyond the faux furs, still keeping the faux furs. Those are, like, the bread and butter and, like, one of my
Please keep them.
favorite. Yes, I I will never
Keep
stop,
them
I promise
forever.
you, I promise you. But we want to kind of expand beyond that and just kind of, do something different, try something else out. So I'm really excited with how that's going right now. We're deep, deep, deep in the creative process. And then I'm working on a couple, film and TV projects right now, which I'm excited about. I can't talk about quite yet. But I'm really excited because I love being in front of the camera and I love, having a platform to kind of share what I do. That just is something that's always been really exciting to me. And then we have it's annoying to say it, but, like, everything is under NDA, but we're working with some, like, really big people, like, some people that I've always looked up to and, like, people's music that, like, I actually listen to when I'm driving to set in the car, which is always such an exciting phone call or email to get. And, beyond that, just hustling, just trying to make it work.
Well, you are, and the camera loves you. So
Oh my
got
god.
no worries there.
Oh
What
my god, I love
would be
you.
your biggest piece of advice to anyone looking to try and get into fashion right now?
Absolutely. So that's one of my favorite parts of my job, and I feel like social media especially, there's a lot of downsides to it, but one of my favorite parts is I have, young people, especially a lot of young queer people reaching out to me on a daily basis through DMs, through comments, asking for advice on life in general and a lot about how to get into the fashion industry. And the number one thing that I tell everybody is that your uniqueness, that is your biggest asset in this business because it's so easy to feel the need to kind of change your perspective to fit in with what's trending at the moment. But when you think about it and take a step back, anybody can copy what they see on the runway or what they see on the red carpet.
Mm,
But nobody can do what I do. Nobody's head is the same as my head. Nobody's
mhm.
perspective on fashion is the same as mine. And I feel like that's where so many people go wrong is that they stop trusting their gut and they try to conform and fit in with what they think is hot at the time. And then at that point, you're just like everybody else, and there's a million other people trying to do the same thing, and you're just gonna get lost in the crowd. So I think being unapologetically yourself, embracing your uniqueness, and just keeping a strong head and having that ambition, that is the ticket right there.
Totally, and I think with fashion, whenever you look at a fashion movement, it's because somebody's done something unique that hasn't been done
Period.
before. You never see
Period.
a fashion movement of somebody that's doing something that everyone else is already doing. Like, that's just
Exactly.
you know what I mean? It's fun and it might pay some bills to have things that are current, but current is in fashion is like current was 3 seconds ago, and then we're on
Exactly.
to
Yeah,
something else.
tomorrow, that's gonna be way, way, way in the past. Yeah.
Totally. So it's just there's no point unless you're being authentic and doing stuff that are going to like carve out a niche for you.
Mhm,
And that's something I think I've struggled with because in my transition, I think after I transitioned, I was so conscious to go hyper feminine to be perceived feminine. And I
mhm,
was like so self conscious about being perceived masculine or trans at all. And like it was
mhm,
just this big complex that I had. And
mhm,
so fashion to me became almost like a bit of like an anxious experience because I was trying to dress so feminine. I
mhm.
wasn't really dressing the way that made me feel good or comfortable. Like, this is
Yep.
me. Like, I'm just that little, like, hood girl at heart that
Period.
has like her little punk rock 13-year-old self inside. And I was wearing like these crazy dresses, like things you probably would see on like a red carpet runway out to lunch or like a business lunch.
As you
And
should. Yeah.
as if you wanna do that, amazing, and
Right?
I love that for you, but for me, I was doing it to make a point that I was feminine, but it
Uh-huh.
wasn't feminine for me anymore, you know what I mean? I had
Yeah.
lost track of it. So fashion, I think just like beauty, just like my makeup brand, is always an evolution, and it's something that can grow with you. I realized that fashion for me was a tool and I wasn't using it as self-expression. I was
Mhm.
using it kind of similar as like a crutch with makeup.
Yep.
And when I started seeing it more as self-expression, it opened up so many windows to things that I loved, and I found so many pieces that are now staples that are so different and unique, but they feel like me. Like fashion is self-expression at the end of the
It
day.
is to me, fashion is one of, if not the most powerful tool of self-expression, and what I always remind myself is, like, fashion is supposed to be fun. It's not that deep. It's supposed to be something that you feel good in. You're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for anybody else, and that's, like, what I love so much about this industry. Because to me, like, an amazing outfit is almost like a suit of armor. It's one of the first things that people see when you walk into the room, and if you don't feel comfortable in it and you don't like it, regardless of if it's on trend or last season or whatnot, it's like if you don't feel good in it, you're not going to shine through it.
Mhm.
So it's like sometimes we got to remind ourselves to take a step back and be like, does this feel good to me? Does this feel authentic to me? And if it doesn't, throw that shit away. Like,
Totally.
right?
I wonder how you feel because with me and my makeup brand, a lot of people constantly call us a beauty brand. And
Uh-huh.
I remind them, I'm like, we're not a beauty brand. I'm not selling you
Period.
anything that will make you more beautiful than you are on your
Mhm.
own. You're already 100% perfect and complete. This is a tool
Love
for self
God.
expression. And owning your fashion company, do you feel that there's like a narrative that you're trying to work away from where fashion has become very vocalized on opinions of others? People are constantly critiquing people's outfits.
Mhm.
The industry itself can be seen as quite toxic in some ways.
Yes.
Are you trying to contribute to that narrative to pull away from I mean, really what the 2000s in fashion
Mhm.
contributed to, which was body shaming and
Yeah.
body dysmorphia for so many people and stuff like that. What's your take on how you move away from those things within your own company?
For me, what has been so important since the conception of my company, because it is a namesake brand, so it's my name out there. I have turned down every single investor because I don't want anybody else having ownership over my name, and I don't want to be in anything but 100% full control of everything that I'm doing. For my brand, obviously, self-expression and gender identity is such a big part of who I am as a person, and I really wanted to translate that into my company if I was going to do it. So, like, on my website and any of our retailers, you'll never see, like, a men's and a women's section. I feel like that is one of the craziest things in the fashion industry because for me, like we just talked about, fashion is a form of self-expression, and I feel like if you see something on that website that you feel empowered to wear and you feel drawn to, there shouldn't be any label or any binary that is stopping you or holding you back even 1% from going, purchasing that piece, and rocking the shit out of it.
Mhm.
Oh, in that way, that is, a very small but meaningful thing to me that I've always made sure to keep a constant with my brand, my website, and anybody that chooses to sell my pieces. Because like you said, the fashion industry can have the reputation of being toxic, which I do not like, obviously, and it is one of the many downsides of this industry. But at the same time, I feel like this new generation, it is our job to kind of come in and correct some of these not so positive traits about the industry. And that's what I'm trying to do, just one baby step at a time.
And that's how you do it one baby step at a time, but it's so courageous of you. And it's people like you that are slowly going to start to make a difference. If you don't mind, and if you feel safe enough to share a little bit about your experience with your gender identity and your sexuality, and to anyone that is young and questioning, I think that there's this really toxic narrative going on right now that trans or non binary or people that are just different in the way that they identify from cis heteronorm identities are pushing like a narrative onto children, and it's not that case at all. We just want there to be space for education and inclusion so that if a child is questioning, if youth are looking at trying to find education and tools to empower themselves and make the
Mhm.
best decisions for themselves, that's what we're concerned about. If you don't mind sharing a tiny bit about your experience, to maybe shed some light on what somebody else could be going through right now.
Absolutely. I mean, growing up, I always knew, especially once I got into school, I always knew that I was different, different from the other boys, especially. I didn't know exactly what that was or what the label was or what the reason was behind it, but I always knew that there was something a little bit different about me. And, I really fought with it. And I feel like there was at least a little bit of like self-hatred there for a while, especially through middle school. Middle school was my toughest time. I got picked on. That age group, especially of boys, is like the worst, in my
Yeah, and
opinion.
still is.
It still is. It still absolutely is. And back then, I just turned 26, but back then, even though it wasn't too long ago, the world was a much different place, and the queer community was not as vibrant and loud and proud as it is now. And growing up, I didn't really have anybody that I could look up to in the media, especially nobody that was, younger or wasn't like being made to be a complete laughing stock of the media. Um, so it was tough and it was very lonely and isolating in a way, and I also just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, so I didn't have that light at the end of the tunnel that I could always look towards. But when I got out of middle school and I went to high school, I went to a completely different school, so there was very few people that I knew coming into this. It was basically as fresh of a start that you can get. So I just kind of made the executive decision. It was one of the hardest decisions of my life. I'm like, you know what? I'm coming into this new school. I'm starting a new chapter of my life. I'm coming out loud, proud, vibrant, boisterous. And I'm just going to see how that goes for me because what I've been doing has not been working for me. I am riddled with anxiety every single day. And, it's time to just kind of switch it up and see what this is about and see what life has to offer, and it was literally almost immediately. The clouds parted, the sunshine came down, and I just felt so much better about myself, and living authentically, there's really no freer feeling than that, and I love it, and I've continued it, and sometimes you just gotta fake it till you make it and just, do the damn thing, and that's kind of what I had to do. But I look out for so many people, and I am, a huge proponent of LGBT youth, and I'm happy to see just the small changes. There's still so much work that needs to be done, but just the changes that have happened since I was in middle school versus people that are in middle school right now. It's like I love to see that growth, and I'm excited to see more growth in the future.
Totally. And I love seeing there was like a young trans girl that was voted prom queen. And I
See, that
fucking
makes my heart
cried
so
watching that
happy.
video, right? It's just that I'm sorry, like, that just it would not have happened when I
Mhm.
was growing up, like, it just there was no ability in language, in education, in acceptance at that time, like, really in the especially in the '90s, if you were different, it was a problem, and
Yeah.
you were constantly trying to fit in, and then even into the early 2000s, where being different kind of started to take a turn and uniqueness was starting to be celebrated, it still wasn't really being celebrated to an
Mhm.
extent. It was more like if you're unique, but you do this or this or this, then like
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
not
if you're
cool.
unique, but in a box.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Have your Band-Aid on your forehead like Nelly, or have whatever the brand was that was trending at the time, Fat Farms, or it was just it was again, yeah, fitting into a box. But I think right now there's this big turn on celebration for individuality. And
Mhm.
people are recognizing that authenticity is important, that people show up happier and the best version of themselves when they can be themselves and feel celebrated. And companies are realizing this now too. When your employees are being celebrated for who they are, they want to work harder. They
Yep,
show up with a greater capacity for love and learning in community within your business. It's just it really helps everybody succeed to celebrate
exactly.
who they are. Um, and I think that that's beautiful. That's something that you're contributing to, especially at your age, to just watch the journey that you've had, how you are a constant advocate in your gender identity because you're so, I mean, like, honestly, you're ridiculously beautiful in the way that you show gender expression.
Thank
And
you.
I'm curious to know, has there ever been a moment where you have wanted to tap more into like a feminine presenting self, a masculine presenting self in fashion? Like, is that something that you find empowering for you?
For me, I have never really labeled myself. I've always been drawn to the more feminine side, like the makeup, the nails, the fashion, and everything. But at the same time, I am very secure and happy in being a man that just likes to dabble in those things. And, I go through little waves of, sometimes, I got my little lashes on, sometimes I got heels on, sometimes I'm in sneakers and sweats. And I love the freedom and the ability to do that and wake up and kind of choose my own destiny and decide who I wanna be for the day, because I enjoy kind of all aspects, and I've always been someone that I wanna paint with all the colors of the crayon box, like, I'm not gonna limit myself to just a couple, you know? So, I like that
Yes.
freedom, and I'm blessed to be in an environment and to have created a life for myself where I'm able to do that.
Well, I mean, I think that your style and especially just like how you represent an androgynous, sexy, fucking take on the world one day at a time and just crush it attitude is so glorious and beautiful.
Thank you.
My it's funny when I first transitioned, I was working at a place called The Score,
Uh-huh.
and I quickly made friends with a young individual named JR.
Uh-huh.
And JR is just this androgynous, they're non-binary. They go by he, him, or they, them,
Uh-huh.
but he's just the most androgynous, stunning, incredible, amazing, lovely person.
Uh,
Uh, I fell in love and he got picked up onto a Netflix series when we were still working at the Score and then left to go and pursue his film career.
mhm.
And he has now become like kind of this androgynous icon, especially within our local area. And he just the fashion sense, it kind of pisses me off. It's similar with you. Like it bothers me a little bit how beautiful you guys look
Ah, stop
because
it.
it's never come to me naturally. And I've always kind of wanted it to.
Quit
Like I
playing
wanted
with
to
me. You're
just,
not gonna sit here and play with me like you're not so stunning, face beat, hair laid.
I love you.
Every
Thank
single time I've
you.
seen you and now that I follow you on Instagram, I'm like, "Oh, stunning, gorgeous."
Thank
Like,
you.
stop
But
it.
this is me. Like this is style for me.
Well, and the fact that you can sit there in a hoodie and still look stunning, I mean, that right there is the definition of beauty to me.
Oh, I love thank you. But you guys, honestly, you slay the day away, and there's concepts of looks, like, talking about Instagram, your Instagram, going through it, I'm just like, how in the world does it come to you to just, "I'm gonna take this and this and this, and then I'm gonna put it on, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna match it with this makeup," and, like, it's just art. You're living, walking art, and it's so stunning.
Thank you, baby. It's honestly, you don't even have to really try. I just go with my gut, what makes me feel good. I try on a bunch of different things, trial and error. And it's just whatever I feel the most comfortable in at that moment in time. That's just kind of what you got to go for. And the rest just kind of shines through. That's how I've always lived my life.
This is me right now. This is what I'm comfortable in.
You're shining. And you're shining.
I think you need to do a master class of styling.
Honestly, well, I need you to beat my face, first of all, and for this master class, I need you to be in charge of the makeup.
Done. But this is a collaboration. You heard it here first, folks. I'm gonna have a style and makeup master class one day.
I know that's right.
So I think that everything that you've covered in your identity is so beautiful and it's so vulnerable to share. I think that what you're doing right now with your work and how you celebrate the youth and especially queer youth is really important. What advice do you have for anyone that is living in states right now where rights are being taken away for queer youth and they might be feeling quite scared? Do you have
Mhm,
any advice for them on how they get through? Maybe they're in middle school, the same as you.
mhm. First of all, it breaks my heart to hear that, and even just thinking about it is just terrible because I'm so blessed and privileged to I've lived pretty much my whole life in LA, which has been pretty good to me. So it makes me really, really sad to even think about that. And like I said, when people reach out to me, a lot of times it is from these states that are not as progressive as where I live. I think, especially if you are in middle school and you're still young and growing up and moving is not an option, I think the biggest thing is trying to find a support system, even if it is just one or two close friends, a teacher, a family member, somebody that you can confide in so you do not feel so alone. I feel like that is of the utmost importance because there's nothing worse than being unhappy and then also feeling like you have nobody to go to or to confide in. So that would be my number one suggestion. And then as you grow up, stack up your paper and get your ass out of here.
Yeah.
Come stay with me if you need to. Like, honestly,
100%.
I
And
got an
that's why
extra
it's so
bedroom.
dangerous that kids can't, or what's happening with the education system and trying to force teachers to have to tell parents if
Yeah,
somebody does come out to them. And it's so fucked up to me that that's even a thing that's happening in the States,
it
that's
doesn't
a
even feel
conversation.
real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's so unsafe. What if we're talking about kids' safety within a conversation of
Mhm,
sharing something about themselves. We're not This is no longer a conversation of somebody transitioning or seeking medical attention, or this is
mhm,
just confiding in somebody as a safe
mhm,
space to be able to have a conversation and talk openly.
mhm.
And if that person's parents are non-supportive and God forbid abusive in any way or extremist in some form,
Yeah,
and then
deadly situation.
it could 100% be. And
Mhm,
whether or not that's the parents abusing the child or the child taking their own life,
um,
it's still something that puts that child completely at risk of both of those things. And it's so fucked up. I can't stress this enough. I can't believe it's even something we have to talk about. But I agree with your youth and you're in a tough bit. The first place, and even if it's just in social media,
yeah.
um, there is a way to make a fake Instagram account. Everyone
Mhm.
knows how to now.
Oh, yeah,
And
baby.
use your Finsta to make your little community. Be cautious. But my biggest piece of advice is your safety is the biggest priority over everything
Mhm,
else. Your mental safety, your physical safety, whatever you have to do to get through to tomorrow, that's what you do. You find community if you can. That's
mhm,
the biggest help, I think, for any queer person is finding community. And that's the importance of community. This is why we need to be here. This is why me and you are having this conversation. It's
mhm.
because we know the importance of creating community and supporting each other because a lot of the world is not going to support us and it may not support us throughout either of our lifetimes. But
Yep.
if we can leave the world a little bit better than how we came into it, I mean,
That's the
look at
ultimate
the
goal
90s,
right
early
there.
2000s.
Right? I
Like,
know that's right, and
it's
I
too hard.
literally, and I feel like we are close enough where I can speak for you. Both of our DMs are always open for anybody that is struggling,
100%.
anybody that is having a hard time. Our DMs are open to talk. I have no problem giving out my number. You wanna hop on FaceTime? Let's hop on FaceTime, let's talk it out because
Totally.
nobody should feel alone out here.
No, and I think it's defeating. I mean, it's defeating for me. I'm 31 years old. I'm waking up and reading headlines. I'm sure you have your own experience with getting online hate. I've gotten
Mhm.
online hate. I've gotten death
Oh, yeah.
threats. I've had people that put me into Facebook groups where all of a sudden there's like thousands of people commenting really horrible things and
Oh.
sliding into my DMs. But the point is that if I'm 31 and I'm still terrified on a day-to-day basis at some point, I can't
Mhm.
imagine what it's like being 15 and then seeing everything in headlines. Because when we were 15, there was no representation, which it
Exactly.
wasn't better or worse, but
Yeah.
there was just no education.
Yeah.
Now there is representation, but a lot of it is really toxic narratives and
Mhm.
dangerous narratives that are being spread. There's so much hate. There's people standing on podiums talking about the fact that we need to eradicate trans people. Like, we're talking about killing an entire group of human beings
It's
on public national
unbelievable.
television.
Literally. It's unbelievable, and it's so easy to look at all of that and feel hopeless, and that's not a good feeling to be in either. It's so toxic, and it's something that I feel like our generation does have the power to change.
I hope so too. When you feel hopeless, what is your biggest advice, especially for if there's any other influencers or entrepreneurs listening that are trying to create
Mhm.
change that are feeling defeated or exhausted, like
Mhm.
a lot of us do on a day to day?
Mhm.
What's your advice for how you get through to the next day and continue to show up?
For me, spending alone time with myself is so important. I am extroverted because I have to be for my work, but I feel like by nature, I am a major introvert.
Same. Oh
So
my God, same.
is that so? Yeah, like, you
Yeah.
gotta be on to do what we do, but by nature, if I was not in this industry, I am just a homebody, I'm a wallflower, like, I just want to just be by myself, and I feel like I need my social battery to recharge. So,
Yes.
if I'm feeling hopeless, it's usually 9 times out of 10 because my social battery is at 0, and I need
Totally.
to recharge. And then the second step to that is going to my community. My number 1 person is my mom. I love talking with my mom about any and everything, even things that you're probably not supposed to discuss with your mom.
Which
But
things?
yeah, bi everything. Everything.
Every ex-boyfriend is just like, "Oh, fuck."
Baby, she might as well have dated all of them too, that's how much she knows. But she's my
Like, when
confidant.
I
I
out of my
love
teeth.
her so much, and I always feel better after talking things through with her, and she is just such, like, a light on earth that I feel like she gives me hope, to be honest.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love your mom already.
Right? Oh my god, well, when you come out to LA, if she's in town, you
Yes,
have to meet her.
100%. And I
Uh,
think that it is really important because I'm similar. Like, I think I was always placed as being an extrovert because I worked in bars
mhm,
and I was social and I had a large group of friends, but I am very much an extroverted introvert and I
mhm,
need my alone time to recharge. And the nice thing about introverts, so like my partner is also, I mean, quite a bit more introverted than me in a way, but when he's around anyone, he's a lot more extroverted than I am. Like I
mm.
get a little bit more shy and nervous at first, unless I'm in like a boardroom, anything to do with business, and I'm there, I'm gung ho, I'm
Boss
excited. But
bitch,
like
yes.
when it comes to just like meet and greets or little events, I get really shy and I'm nervous and
Uh-huh.
I'm also like 6'1", so I'm just standing there in my little awkward self, like, "Ah."
I love it.
And he really thrives. But because we're both introverts, we can also understand and allow each other the space that we need.
Mhm,
And you can recharge with another introvert. There's something different when you're talking to another introverted person. I don't know what this is or if this makes sense to anyone else, but even with you. I never feel like my battery is being drained when I talk to somebody like you. If
Period. Because
anything,
we
I feel
get
like
it.
it's
We see
yeah,
each other. Yeah.
totally, and I almost feel like it's being recharged because 'cause I'm just like, "Oh, feeling understood and validated." Maybe it's a queer thing, who knows?
Honestly, it could be a little bit of everything, but what it is that we got each other. I
We
know
get
that's
it. Yes, 100%. Do you have any closing remarks for LGBTQ youth that are in the States right now that want to make a change? Is there anything that they can be focused on? Is there anything that we can share or shed some light on that you're involved in right now?
Absolutely. Philanthropy has been a huge, huge part of myself even before I started my business. I feel like giving back is something like we talked about that recharges my battery and makes me feel good. So, anybody across the United States that wants to make a difference, do your research, see what charities or organizations are working and putting in the work in the queer community in your neighborhoods because they are all over the place. In LA, we have about 10,000 of them,
Mm,
and I've worked with so many of them. The Trevor Project, I love the Trevor Project, and I've worked with them for years and years and years, and they do such amazing work. And there's just so many things that you can do. And it doesn't mean you're, spending your entire life and dedicating your entire life to this. You don't need to do that. Just the smallest things go such a long way for these people in need. So
totally.
do your research, get out there, dedicate one day out of your weekend to go volunteer at one of the LGBT shelters or at one of the foundations. Like those little things mean more to these people than you could ever imagine.
Totally. And it's one conversation. That's what I realized. And just a quick story. Was at a bar one night and somebody was kind of sitting down in the corner, a little bit isolated from the group, was like a friend of a friend sitting at the table.
Mhm.
And I just drew up a conversation with them and was talking to them. And we ended up just like spending pretty much the whole night talking about life and the same thing, philanthropy and art and self expression and everything. And we covered so much. And then we go outside after we all pay our bills and everything. And we're saying goodbye. And he looks at me and goes, I don't want you to have to take any of this on, but I was very prepared to go home and take my life tonight. I
Oh,
had gone and gotten the prescription. I had my notes written. I was
oh,
coming out to enjoy my last drink with my friend and then go home. And he's like, because of this
wow.
conversation, I won't be doing that. And I'm really,
I
really
have
grateful to you.
chills all over my body.
And but
That
that's the thing. For me, it's a completely
yeah,
normal conversation, just meeting a new person and being nice. But the impact that that clearly had for him
saved
was
his life.
monumental. Totally.
Exactly.
And
That's what I'm saying. You never know what people are going through. Be nice to everybody. You see
totally,
somebody sitting alone at lunch if you're in school, go sit next to that person. You don't know how much that means to them. There are so many people that are hurting and suffering in silence because they're too scared to speak up. So do something about that. If you can and have the ability to, do it.
totally. I couldn't agree more. You are such a pleasure. It's such an honor to have you on here and such
Oh
an
my god.
honor to call you my friend. I can't wait to see everything that you have coming. I know a little bit more than we can talk about on here, but
Yes.
I can't wait to see everything that's happening. I can't wait to just watch what the future has in store for you because the way you show up in the world and the beauty that you bring and the safety that you create for other queer people is it's just monumental in the way that you show up in the world. And I just know that the universe has such beautiful things for you because of that.
Oh my god. The feeling, I cannot even express how mutual it is. I literally have never even met you in face, like, face to face, like, but I feel like we are like this, like, honestly, like sisters at this point.
100% kindred
I
spirits.
for real, like, I love you so much, and I'm so proud and honestly inspired by you and everything that you have done. I respect anybody that is a queer person that can start a business because nobody understands how hard it is to actually do that and follow through with it unless you've actually done it yourself. So the fact that you've been able to do that and you're a real boss bitch in my heart and I
Oh,
respect you
thanks,
for that.
darling. I love you so much.
I love you.
Until next time, my love.
Until next
And there
time.
will be a next time.
I know that's right.
All right, folks, that wraps up today's episode of the Braveyard. Huge thank you to Matt, somebody I'm so blessed to call a friend and just really grateful to have in my life. Next week, we have another incredible guest, Kine from Canada's Drag Race, will be here, and I can't wait to share more all about that next time on the Braveyard.